Good Monday morning, everybody. The Horns won. Aaron's D-backs won. Yay.
1-1.
His Chargers won. It is a good Monday morning. It's good to be here. How's everybody doing? Let's start with you, Aaron. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I can't call it a perfect sports weekend. I was very close to being – I was 2 outs away on Friday night from being able to call it a perfect sports weekend with the Texas win and the OU loss and the Chargers win. And, yeah, I mean, I went to game 2 of the World Series. That obviously went great. But, yeah, so I'm doing pretty good overall. Travis, you ran a marathon. Is that correct?
I did, yeah. I happened to run and finish the Marine Corps Marathon.
And that is a massive part of that finish.
That's the big deal. And it wasn't fast, but the race wasn't against the clock for me. The race was to finish. So something I never thought I'd do because I've always been a plus-sized fella. I played offensive line in high school football. You know what I mean? Like, this is way out of the norm of anything I ever thought I would do. But
well,
what is that, 26.2 miles?
What's up?
What is that, 26.2 miles?
26.2. Yeah.
Well, congrats to you, Travis. That's very impressive. You ran a marathon on Sunday. I watched football for 10 and a half hours and only took 2 bathroom breaks. Nash, what about you? What do you got?
I mean, I understand what what Travis thinks he did was impressive, but it was, but it's nowhere near as impressive as being able to watch. I had 4 games on my computer alone, 2 games on my TVs. I was paying attention to 6 NFL football games at once. So, call me Superman. I know.
Week 8, there were no buys. Yeah, I mean, weighing in the chat, let us know who had the more impressive Sunday.
In my opinion, what I accomplished was like peak humanity, or like that is just absolute human specimen right here.
I'm more curious, and that's cool, Nash. I love a good football watching weekend.
I appreciate it.
Why, Aaron, were you tracking how many bathroom breaks you took during the Sunday football watching? That's the weird thing here.
I think
you notice because you can't miss snaps. So like when you get up once, you notice like, oh man, like I gotta make this count. So when you get to
did you have a little tally going? Like, ding,
I just noticed in my head because I hate getting up. Like I hate doing it. So like I just noticed.
So here's my thing. I noticed Aaron did something when you mentioned the Chargers. Aaron did a little. They always say bolt up, but he bolted down. He threw that bolt down like he was Zeus from the skies.
I was mainly just doing a little fist bump because they didn't get lit up by a
quarterback. It looked like you were throwing a bolt.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you know what? We had a good weekends, obviously, all of us. Looks like the people in the Specs chat line did as well. It's up and running already. Pop in Sandman. Been hunting cougars for the last 2 weeks. Now it's wildcat hunting season. Go Horns. We are obviously going to break down this BYU game here in a second, but wanted to say hi to Benny Rogers as well. Good morning from a rainy East Texas.
It's raining down here in Austin too, and not only that. I mean, you want to talk about color me surprised.
There you go.
What is that?
I love it.
That's not Nate.
Love the cool weather. In fact, the marathon was got up to 80 yesterday, and it sucked. It sucks running in the heat and humidity.
Yeah, that's the thing is it feels far colder than 30 degrees because we just had 80 degrees yesterday.
Colton Bunting is in the house, by the way. He's got his horns up. That's the name of the show. The longest horn knows how to do it. Do what?
Cotton or Colton?
This one's Colton. This one's Colton. I put the respect on the name. Damn it. No offense to anyone who doesn't. Scott Bowers in the house from Bristol, Tennessee. Good morning, Scott. Max Jefferson. He's in the house with his horns up and follows with he's got, well, we'll get to that, Max. We will get to that. That's not what I Stanley asking what my time was. Stanley, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I beat the bridge. I beat the clock. I finished. That's what mattered. For those of you who don't know, by the way, if you don't run it fast enough, there's a point where you have to cross a bridge, the Potomac. And if you don't get there in time, they take you off the course because they got to open the highways, the streets back up. So beating the bridge is the big deal. And this is what I thought Max Jefferson was following up. I'm in D.C. now, marathon down the street from me. Very cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Good morning to you, Robert Kemp and Charlie Williams checking in, talking about Kansas beating.
Look, I wonder if our Sooner friends are going to show up today.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah, we will. And I bet
they've been showing up consistently ever since the Red River. But I got a sneaking suspicion that they're not going to show up.
I think we'll see our Sooner friends in the chat, Bo and Stoopsified. I think they'll show up. We'll see. You're right, though. You never know. And we will talk about that and college football writ large a little later. But first, we got to get to it. Texas 35, BYU 6. Let me get your knee-jerk reactions to the game. Just big picture knee-jerk reaction. We'll get into the nitty-gritty in a little bit. Nash, let's start with you.
So extremely detailed. No, I'm kidding. I think just overall defense went out there and they dominated. At the end of the day, we handled BYU. Offense could have looked better at times, but you know what? I'm not going to sit here and complain about 35-6 victory.
There you go. Aaron?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty strong performance. I thought the Texas offense ran the ball well when it mattered, and then I thought they defended the run really well. I know garbage time, they gave up some runs, but that was garbage time. For the most part, they defended the run really well. We'll talk about Malik Murphy. I thought it was about as expected, but yeah, the defense is a lot better and a lot more aggressive when Jahdae Barron and Ryan Watts are out there. Newsflash, that was a good reminder. Those guys kind of set the tone in the first quarter, especially. Seems like they're both still banged up, so we'll see what those guys are, the status or what they look like going forward. But I thought getting those two guys back was noticeable on defense when I was watching this one.
Yeah, I agree. We'll get into the secondary in a little bit because it is still a big concern for me. Obviously, the red zone is still a big concern for all of us. We'll get into that in a second. We got to start off with Malik Murphy, who, my big takeaway from him, his day, by the way, he was 16-25 for 170 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 really bad interception, and a fumble loss. But my big takeaway is he played with what I thought he would be. You know what I mean? He showed some real flashes. I loved the deep pass to Adonai Mitchell for the touchdown. I loved the hooking. He had some great throws to Worthy. Some great catches by the Jatavian Sanders, by the way. His 2 catches were phenomenal. He looked like a first-time starting quarterback. I mean, there's still a lot of learning to do, but the obvious potential is there. When that dude starts to put it all together and really figure it out, he's going to be a gamer. Like he's got it in him, and he showed it, but he was a first-time starting quarterback, and he showed that too. Like that, especially that early interception. That you got to take the sack. I know he was under pressure. He was forcing the ball, just kind of let it loose. Take the sack, dude.
I don't even know what to say about that play. Like, I feel like we need like an ESPN 30 for 30 documentary on what happened on that play because Worthy wasn't even running a route. He didn't seem to think it was a pass play. Mitchell was running a route on the other side.
And then you watch the play.
Away, like
Malik Murphy turns around mid-play. Like, so he throws the interception. He turns the ref like, are you going to call it dead?
I think
and
the snap was early.
Because
the snap was early. Like
the play was doomed from the snap. It looked like not a single person except for Jake Majors was ready for. And I'm not blaming this on Majors at all, but not a single person except for Jake Majors was ready for that snap to come out. He just like it was almost like he got surprised by the ball and just like screw it. I'm getting rid of this thing.
Complete catastrophe.
And it was just and then you know what? Hey, even though they did have a penalty that stopped it, Jonathan Brooks, credit to him, man, showing all that. A ton of effort to actually because if there was no penalty, that's a tackle that saves 6 points.
Yep. Which BYU was not. Listen, I came in last week. I told you, I said where are the points going to come from for BYU? That is a bad offense. But Texas did what they're supposed to do against a bad offense. They kept them from scoring. We're going to move on in just a second, but I got to hit up our boy Longest Horn, reminding everyone. Hit that like button. Come on, fellas. Do us a favor. It helps the show out, helps us out. And it takes literally the minimalist of efforts on your part. It's that easy. Just click, done, boom. We appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Before we move on
Malik,
Maalik, I think that there was this is a day there where like you wish the wide receivers didn't have. There was 3 drops from the wide receivers. You remove those 3 drops, it's not like Maalik is out there and going and have like some 300-yard day or high 200s, but it's still a 76 completion percentage a day. It's a lot better day. He still does have that 1 interception, but I'd like to see that kind of stirred up a little bit, because that's an issue that we haven't seen all. We saw it at the beginning of the year, and as Quinn Ewers' completion percentage rose, you also saw we didn't have a single drop in the past, I think, like 6 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, they've been very sure-handed, so that was a surprise to see. And maybe it's just the difference in the passing. You know what I mean? The guys are so used to catching from Ewers. The ball comes out different for every quarterback, and maybe it was just one of those things. I will say Malik's throws were a little behind, quite a bit, actually. He was behind, and he wasn't quite leading the guys like there was. That's a timing issue. That comes with reps. It's not something to worry about. It's just something that, I think it was a harder day for the receivers catching the ball than they're used to.
Well, and that's something we talked about last week too.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned the AD Mitchell throw, how the timing was off on that throw. And then, it's something that's going to need to be worked on.
Yep, absolutely. Aaron, what did you think of Maalik?
Yeah, I thought it was, I agree with pretty much everything you guys are saying. It was about what I think it was a pretty fair, first start, about what you would expect. The timing was definitely off a little bit on a couple throws. The turnovers, they were both pretty bad, but they were both kind of bad turnovers by the offense as a whole. I mean, we mentioned the first turnover was just a complete disaster by the whole offense. The second one too, they tried to run the screen, and the blocking was all off, but I mean, still Malik's got to do a better job of taking care of the ball. Those turnovers won't cost you against BYU, but they will against Kansas State this week. I thought he looked pretty comfortable in the pocket. Like, he didn't really panic when there was pressure in his face. The throw to Sanders was incredible. It was incredibly risky, but he put it right in the perfect spot, and then Sanders kind of bailed him out with an amazing catch. It is funny. He throws off his back foot, kind of like Quinn does. So
yeah.
Everyone that's like, oh man, I can't stand Quinn Ewers. This guy throws off his back foot, and then Maalik comes out there and just starts slinging it off his back foot. I mean, it's just because they both have super talented arms, but I thought that was funny. I mean, I think he's gonna give them a chance in any game that they have to win here in this little stretch. But yeah, it was a fine first outing, and he'll have to improve, but I don't think there's anything that I saw that was like, oh man, he can't improve upon this like in a week. Like, I think he's going to give him a shot, which is all you can really ask for from a backup quarterback that gets forced in like in the middle of the season.
And I will admit, the throwing out the back foot drives me absolutely insane. It drives me insane with Quinn. It drives me insane with Maalik. The footwork, just come on. AJ Milwee, you got to do better than that. I mean, that's, I know these guys came into this with those habits. You got to beat that out of them.
I have a feeling AJ's sitting there saying the same thing that you're saying. I have a sneaking suspicion he's not sitting there going, good job.
Holy crap. Every time there is an issue with both these guys, it's because they're throwing off their back foot. Every time, and it just drives me nuts.
Everyone talks about it too. Like, whenever I watch these games, I have a Google Doc up, and I'm just like taking notes. So it's just like my blank thoughts. Like, if anyone ever saw these, it would be hilarious. But my literal note was, I made a dash and I said, Murphy also throws off his back foot. LMAO.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say, like, on my closing thoughts from Maalik, man, I think that it's like, just to echo what Aaron said, it's pretty much what you expect from a first-time quarterback. I'll say I kind of agree with what Aaron said, but the PFF stats, they have him at a 21.7 under pressure rating, pretty bad. It was five attempts, 2 completions, 37 yards. But when he's not under pressure, which this Texas offensive line, if there's one thing that they're going to do really well, it's pass block. Like, a lot of people, I had a thread yesterday on Orange Bloods where people, they were getting on to me for saying that the run blocking wasn't where that it wasn't as improved. And They point out to Alex deep dig grades, and yes, the offensive line has improved. The deep dig grades, you're going to see those improve, but a lot of that is because of pass blocking. Under pressure, when he's not under pressure, which was most of the time last week, he was 20 attempts, 14 completions. That's 70% completion percentage.
And I will say, listen, BYU did a pretty good job of getting pressure. And we talked about this all last week. They're a tough physical team, right? They're not a great team overall, especially on offense. That's where their biggest downfall is. But on defense, they're physical. They play hard-nosed football, and they got after Maalik. I think as long as Maalik is in the game,
for the most part, he was clean. He was clean for like majority of the snaps.
They did a pretty good job of getting in there at times. I mean,
yeah, they got 4 pressures, that's a lot for this Texas.
It's compared exactly. That's what I'm getting at. It's a lot for Texas. It's not what Texas normally does, but it wasn't a lot overall. It was just not what we're used to seeing. Like they got some pressure.
Like to what you're saying, Christian Jones gave up his second hit all year long on the quarterback.
There you go. And that dude, by the way, has been lights out for the last 2 years.
Him and Banks. At this point, it's 3 QB hits. Let me see. It's now 11 total pressures from them. We're talking like 600 snaps combined. That's
awesome.
It's legit. Like you have like 2 legit. Like if you're ever taught like to use like a chess reference, it's almost like having 2 rooks on the end.
Now, I will say, as long as Malik's in the game, teams are going to do their absolute best to try and get pressure because he's shown already just in this one start, he struggles with the pressure. And again, that's to be expected. First-time starting quarterback. He doesn't have – listen, it's not just he's a first-time starting quarterback in college. Maalik doesn't have a lot of snaps even in high school. He didn't get a ton of snaps in high school. He sat behind a D1 quarterback. His junior year is first time he started. It was the COVID-shortened season that they played in the spring. His senior season was the first full time playing a full season, and he still led him to a state championship. But just to say, he's got a lot of growth to do, period. It's not like he's coming in with 50 starts under his belt. He doesn't have
that junior year. For those that remember, I was actually like doing every play videos for Malik Murphy his junior year, and I had to stop because Texas fans were starting to say some wild stuff in the comments, like saying that he's never going to be anything good. And I'm like, look, y'all got to remember, he's got no offensive line right now, and this was back his junior. Like this is his first year starting. Had no offensive line. The wide receivers, he was putting balls right there and like where they could catch it. They were dropping them constantly. And I was like, I mean, if y'all can't see that, then I'm going to stop putting the every play videos out because I don't want a kid like last thing I want is some kid in his family like to find his film on there and then go down to the comment section and just see a bunch of ridiculous stuff. But the amount of development that he's had.
I would advise every player to avoid the comment section. Just saying.
Yeah,
there's no good can come from it.
I echo that.
Even if there is a good comment, and those are way fewer than the criticisms, just ignore it.
Unless they're trying to win a free Jonathan Brooks jersey, which nobody did. No. And the score was not that outrageous, but no one won. So
there were a couple close ones. Yeah. Like Danny Juarez always in the chat. If he hey, I've been getting on to him for not having that faith in Texas. If he had that faith in Texas defense, he would have had it. He had 35 points for Texas on offense, but he had like 24 points for BYU. That's just way too much.
You know what? You don't even need faith in Texas defense to understand BYU's offense blows. Like they're bad. They're bad. Keaton Slovis is really bad. The run game is not great. The only thing I saw out of BYU that I was impressed with and liked was their receiver. The guy Kwame Lassiter's son, Darius Lassiter. I thought that dude looked pretty good. And he ended up with 5 catches for 75 yards. He made some plays. That's about the only thing I would hang my hat on if I were a BYU fan on the offense.
I was watching yesterday's NFL football slate, and I was just thinking, man, how lucky are we to have missed Puka Nacua? How lucky are we to have missed that?
Yeah, that dude's good.
One year.
So we got to talk about the red zone because it continues to be an issue. And Sark was saying in the post-game presser, he's like, it's kind of exciting that our best football is still ahead of us. And I was just sitting there thinking, damn, Sark, you're 8 games into this season.
You can't say that on Halloween.
Shouldn't you be hitting your best football? And frankly, a lot of it has to do with short yardage and red zone offense.
Well, he was also very critical of that too. He clearly was like, that was one of the first things that he mentioned. He was like, we got like this system that's got
it is. But even that, he was like, boy, it's sure frustrating. And I'm like, Jesus, Sark. Imagine what the fans are feeling. I mean, this is, and I mentioned in our Slack during the game, Sark went for it twice on 4th down at the goal line. Both times he was stopped. And it's like, I feel like he keeps trying to prove that this team can do it. And the team keeps proving them wrong. When they're lined up, they're just not able to do it. It cost them against OU. If BYU were a better team, it would have cost them on Saturday. But
it's just stubborn.
It is stubborn, and it's unnecessary. Sometimes just take the frickin' points. Like this 35 point, they left 6 points on the board, at least, right? I mean, assuming they could have scored a touchdown, then it would have been more. But just saying you get stopped, kick the field goal. That's 6 more points. You'd have been in the 40s. That certainly makes it look better, at least. I mean, if nothing else, take the damn points.
I think in like in a Kansas State game, he would have taken the points. I think part of it was, hey, we've got to improve in the red zone. We need to work on these plays. The BYU offense literally looks like just bunch of nobodies running around out there. So if we don't get it, they're not going 99 yards. Let's work on these plays. I think that was.
You say that, Aaron, but he did it against OU.
I know.
But here's the deal. It's execution to me, right? Like it's like because at the end of the day, like to what I'm saying about the run block, if they just execute the run blocks, that gap is like we're talking about a yard, right? In most cases, a yard to 2 yards. You execute a block, you should. If everybody just does their job, right? A yard to 2 yards should not be anything crazy to get. You look at the Jatavian Sanders play where he had that little screen pass on the outside. That's one of the this is what there's somebody did some bad voodoo during the offseason, and there's some bad mojo going on in the red zone because the one time that I've seen Jordan Whittington absolutely just completely whiff on a block.
Yeah.
It's in the red zone. It was like but it was like almost like broken because if you watch that playback, it almost looks like Whittington is running a slant route.
I was going to.
And he's expecting the ball.
No, he wasn't.
Oh, you just passed the ball. Now I got to turn around and block, and then he's out. He was out of leverage.
He was running a dummy route. He was running a fake. He was trying to act like he was running the cut, the slant, and he oversold it. He ran himself out of position. So that then when he did engage on the block, he didn't have his head on the outside shoulder. If he just gets his head on the outside shoulder, he didn't even need to move the guy. Just get his head on the outside shoulder. That's a touchdown. I was going to say, I liked that play call.
Yeah,
I didn't mind him going for it.
People were getting on to Sanders in the stands saying, oh, he's got to take that inside. He's got to.
No.
You're getting on to the wrong person.
Yeah. That it was designed. It was a well-designed play, and it's hard to criticize Jordan Whittington for blocking because I mean the dude is nails out there. He just oversold the fake and was out of position to make the block. But I didn't mind the 4th down the first time. I liked the play call to Sanders. I thought all of that was good. It just didn't click. Now, I will criticize the first and second down where it's like Sark keeps repeating plays when he gets down that close. Stubborn. And you're wasting downs. And that is a frustrating thing to watch.
That's like the biggest thing I noticed with the red zone stuff. It was just like the play calling, it felt predetermined. It seemed scripted. It seemed stubborn. It just didn't feel like he was adjusting with the flow of the game. It just doesn't seem like there's enough creativity. It was like, yeah, we were begging for the Savion Reg package for weeks. It worked once or twice. And then like he breaks it down on like the 4-yard line. It's just like, no, that is like the Savion Red package should be when you're on the 1-yard line because like if they're on the 4-yard line, then they don't have to respect the pass. That's a completely different ball game. The run blocking has just not been the same in the red zone all year as it has been in normal run blocking, which I know obviously there's more guys in the box. It's different, but still you would think you could be physical enough to dominate like a BYU and block in the run game. But I just feel like there's no creativity. Like, where's the play action rollout to Gunnar Helm? Like, Adonai Mitchell was winning early and often. Like, get him involved in the red zone somehow. Like, I just feel like it was all predetermined, and he's reaching, like he's trying to find it, he's trying to force it, and he just can't. Like, Sark can't do it as a play caller right now. He's just like, he's in a slump is the best way I can describe it. It's like a 4-hole hitter that can't lay off a slider right now. Like, as a play caller, Sark is just in a slump in the red zone. He just can't find the best plays at the right time.
I mean, it feels like he has these plays that he thinks he has in his mind, like there's no way this doesn't work, right? And then when it doesn't work, he goes out there and he's like, okay, let me do it again. Like, hey, I just whipped out a square peg, and it's supposed to go in this round hole, but let me just sit here and let me hammer this thing in and let me force it in.
Yeah.
And it's just this constant, it's just this stubbornness. He has a good drive. If the ball gets within the 10-yard line, he cannot accept that thing is not getting in the end zone.
And I agree with this point by Robert. Like, he definitely does not want to throw the ball. But, man, when you have Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, and Jatavian Sanders, you should be able to scheme something up to throw the ball inside the 5-yard line.
It almost got picked. There was their corner target to Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah.
And if there's one time where you want Malik Murphy to just put you throw that thing as hard as you can.
Yeah, and ideally you can run the ball in from inside the 5 because that's just the less variance, and that's what you're supposed to do in the red zone. But yeah, it's been brutal. And we're going to talk about Kansas State a lot. Nash touched on this a bit earlier. I was looking at it before the show, before I even logged on. Kansas State, number 2 in the country in red zone touchdown percentage.
Number three. Texas is number 2.
Interesting.
Put some respect on their name.
I was looking at red zone.
Offensively.
I was looking at offense.
Okay, my bad. I thought you were talking about defense.
Percentage. No. Kansas State number 2, Texas number 120.
Yeah.
No. Those are defense numbers. Let me get the offense numbers for you.
I don't think they are.
You know what? Anyway,
my bad.
It is going to be an issue with Kansas State. It is going to be, and you're right. We're going to talk a lot about that. It's going to be a tough game. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a tough game. But one thing I did want to bring up. I did think the secondary looked better with Ryan Watts back and Jahdae Barron back, but there were still some times where PK reverted to the big soft cushions, and it burned them every time. And I just, for the life of me, I don't know. There was a 3rd and 2, and then he gave a 7-yard cushion, and it was an easy pitch and catch for a first down. I don't understand why. Sark always talks about getting sticky on the back end and pressure on the front end. You can't be sticky when you're given 7, 8, 9, 10-yard cushions. It just doesn't happen, especially when you're starting to backpedal immediately out of your break. Why would a DB start backpedaling on 3rd and 2 with an 8-yard cushion? The point of an 8-yard cushion there would be to break in and disrupt a play if you need to. I know that that opens up the potential of getting burned deep. And the PK's whole thing is he doesn't want to get burned deep.
I think it goes to show, like we saw the issues versus Houston. I think that this is what we need to start talking about now with this is I think the coaching staffs know, hey, if we do this, we are going to get burned deep, right? It's not a matter of we open ourselves to getting burned deep. I think that just with what we've seen from this team, when we get targeted deep, they're going this is not something that's just with this team specifically. This happened year in and year out in past years.
They're getting burned.
The next stone turnover for the Texas defense.
They're getting burned for 8, 9, 10 yards because they're giving up the cushion. So much cushion on this.
No, I know.
Ryan Watts so far seems to be the only DB I've seen, the only cornerback I've seen that really can play a press man coverage. The other guys just can't. Brooks and Holmes aren't there yet. I don't know if they're ever going to be able to play press man coverage, but when they try, it doesn't work. They give that cushion, and it gives up simple, easy plays time and time again. And it is frustrating as heck to watch. It's like you can't play defense like that. You just can't. You got to if you're going to get a pass rush, you have to have a little bit of a hold up in the back end. And if you're giving that much cushion, a quarterback has an easy, quick out. It was an issue against OU that burned Texas. It was an issue against Houston that nearly burned Texas. Kansas State can take advantage of those kind of coverages. I'm telling you right now, K-State's better than Houston. It will be an issue if they continue to do it.
It would be nice if we get called, if the other team ever got called for a hold, though. That would be nice.
Well, sure.
It's at this point, it's like a weekly ritual to find the one, just, we're not talking like some grainy footage. We're talking like a high quality 4K, $1,000 camera picture snapshot of Byron Murphy with his with an offensive lineman having his neck around chokehold around him. It's happening way too much.
It is bad stuff, and we'll hit on that more this week as we start talking about Kansas State. Did want to say hi to Bo. He did show up. I told you.
Shout out. You're missing your other Sooner buddy, but hey, shout out for showing up.
Yeah, Bo, we appreciate you coming back in the chat. Unfortunately, we got to talk OU coming up. We're going to talk about we're gonna check in on the rest of college football. But I did want to say, overall, I thought the defense played well, and I was just it killed me to watch Anthony Hill drop that interception in the first quarter because I was so excited for him. But overall, Anthony Hill Jr. has been playing phenomenal football. And if you're like me, you love watching the dude, now's the time to get on Elite Sports Memorabilia. Anthony Hill just had a signing yesterday. While I was out running around, he was signing a bunch of autographs just for you. And now's your chance to buy them. They are available. You buy them now. The pre-orders is done. Obviously, you cannot get the inscriptions anymore. But these are available now, and if you go buy one, they'll ship probably tomorrow. I mean, Brandon's real good about getting these shippings out quickly. So scan the QR code. Go check out Elite Sports Memorabilia. Like I said, the new Anthony Hill merchandise is in. It's signed. He's done. There are some big signings coming up, by the way, which we're not, they're still working out the details on the contracts. But trust me, there's some very cool guys about to sign. And to say nothing of the guys who already have signed, like Adonai Mitchell, like starting Texas quarterback Malik Murphy, who's an ESM client. Like I mentioned Adonai Mitchell, there's Jatavian Sanders has some gear available. Quinn Ewer still has some gear available, a little bit for Quinn, not a lot left. But there's just a lot of great merchandise. Texas Longhorn. Malik Murphy, authentic Longhorn gear that, you can't just go buy most of these autographs. Like there's not a ton of them available. ESM signs these guys to NIL deals, so it helps them out. It helps us out because he's the sponsor of the show. But more importantly than that, it helps you out because you get some very, very cool gear. And you too could have a wall like Nash's. I mean, let's face it.
Normally, without a guy like Brandon from ESM, you gotta wait until the player does well, and not because it's got to be well enough to the point where now we're gonna start having you sign college jerseys, right?
Yeah.
You get it's the guy's got to go. He's got to go be an absolute baller in the NFL. Okay, we got a bunch of NFL jerseys. And now there's a demand for college jerseys. So with a guy like Brandon, you're able to get all your Texas Longhorn needs.
Absolutely. So how cool is that, by the way?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of Elite Sports Memorabilia. And it's not just the stars, by the way. He signs a lot of the new guys coming in. Guys like Ethan Burke is a member. Colton Vasek, I think, has done a signing. Trey Wisner, for instance, has you can go buy Trey Wisner gear.
Special teams monster.
It's special teams monster now. Freshman could end up being a big part of this running attack going forward. There's just a lot of very cool gear available. So go check out ESM. And I will tell you, I don't know about Sam. Oh,
I just didn't know if we want. It was a good segue if we wanted to do it.
Yeah, well, we already started the segue. Sorry. That I will tell you, by the way, guys, I mentioned ran the marathon, and I'm not going to lie. The first thing I wanted when I was done was cold beer. It just like, that just sounded so damn good. And I did come home and grab one. And unfortunately, being in DC, I didn't have a Specs to go to. I had to order from someplace else because I was in no shape to walk around and go to the store and get them. So I was begging for a Specs, and they just weren't there in DC. So unlike that was a situation where if you had a Specs, it would be fantastic because they are around the corner in most of the place in the state. It's a Texas born and bred company, and they do deliver. The Specs app and Specs Online delivers, and trust me, when you're hobbling around and you don't want to walk anywhere, delivery is the way to go. So go check out Specs.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Travis out here running marathons and stuff while we're all sitting on the couch yelling at Damian Pierce to get the ball from the 1-inch line instead of Andrew Beck.
Running marathons and crushing beers.
Dude, I was so hungry, and like we ended up ordering fried chicken and beer and ice cream, and I was so happy after that. It's not even funny.
That's an excellent post-marathon meal.
it was all I wanted was something like fatty and greasy and salty, and it just like a 4,000 calorie deficit. I was more than happy to splurge on that. But you know what? We do need to talk college football writ large, right? I mean, we hammered this BYU game pretty well. We did not mention, and we should. Let's wrap it up post break. Texas special teams made a big difference in this game. Not just the worthy touchdown return on the punt return, but also Ryan Sanborn had a great game. Texas special teams have been down this year. Yesterday, they look good. And if they play like that the rest of the season going forward, special teams will make a difference in close games. They just do. So
Sanborn has looked great all year long. And I felt so bad for the dude because he had that one punt. It was just like, you're talking like he's punting from the 30-yard line almost. And the ball, it has enough air to go just too far. Like, I mean, we're talking like 6 inches or less, possibly. Like from where it's probably a foot from where I'm sitting now, like just angle and all that stuff. But that ball hits and then just takes an immediate nosedive out to the side. And it's just like, if it was just a little bit shorter, that ball is just, it's as perfect as a punt you could ever get.
He looked good. He has looked good all year. He's better than I thought he would be. Honestly,
his numbers are right next to Michael Dixon's, if not better. I need to update that stuff.
And his stats coming into he came to Texas as a graduate transfer. Frankly, his stats at Stanford were okay. They weren't.
They're iffy. There was like nothing to write home about, but nothing to complain about.
So yeah, exactly. He was good.
Exactly. Like that. That's the face. Like
but he's damn good at Texas. I don't know. You got to give the staff here credit. I don't know. They unlocked.
Give Jeff Banks some credit, man.
Oh yeah, good job on him. Got to talk Kansas OU. That's where we got to start. Kansas 38, OU 33. Bo is in here in the chat line. Talking up a storm on the game with people hitting him up with questions. Listen, Kansas took advantage of what Texas didn't do, and that's the advantage in the run game. Bo was mentioning, OU fans blame Jeff Lebby, the offensive coordinator. I'm no Jeff Lebby fan. I don't blame you for blaming him, but that's not what lost this game. It's the lack of a run game and the lack of ability to stop the run game. Frankly, and I go back to Texas should have taken more advantage of the run game against OU. They had a big advantage there, and they didn't jump on it. Kansas did. Now, Kansas did have the running quarterback, Jason Bean. Thank you. Jason Bean. He's a running quarterback. He's damn fast. I mean, he's one of the fastest players on the team. And Sark even talked about in the postgame presser, by the way, some teams grab those cheat yards with the running game, and whereas like Texas is all running game. Okay, fine, but it still counts. Every yard counts. Kansas ran for God knows how many yards. I can look it up here in a second, but it was
125.
Yeah.
I got it right here.
That's the difference. That's the difference in the game right there. And they left OU with under a minute when they got the ball back after Kansas scored, as opposed to a minute 17. Just a little bit of a difference. I'm just saying, Texas maybe scored a little too quickly in this game. But that's a big loss for OU. Look, they're coming. They barely won last week. They lost against Kansas. OU's got to right the ship. They've got a big game coming up against Oklahoma State. Bedlam is this week. I don't know what to begin to think about OU. Did you guys check out any of that game?
We were driving up to Arlington, so I didn't see too much of it. I saw a little bit of the end of the game, but no one, we never really thought OU was this dominant, like number 1 or number 2 ranked team. Like they weren't some juggernaut that was immune to an upset. So, it's not shocking to see them get upset. I thought Kansas was kind of reeling just because it was just setting in that Jalen Daniels, the back stuff just kept lingering. So I was surprised to see Kansas play this well. Oklahoma, weird game, 19 pass attempts, 55 rush attempts on offense. The offense seems fine. I haven't watched the game yet. I guess I'll save it for a rainy day. I'll just crack it open when I'm feeling depressed, and I'll just watch Kansas beat Oklahoma. That'll cheer me up. Kansas ran all over them. Just any given Saturday, man. It's just that time of the year. No one's immune to there are tiers. I think we're finally starting to see some tiers develop, and we'll talk about other games and rankings later. But Oklahoma, they were never really in that top tier. So they're not immune to upsets. I will say we have a lot of people watching right now, so drop that like button, especially for the Oklahoma loss. Just give us a quick like real quick. We appreciate it.
Yeah, as far as am I surprised about this? Absolutely not. Look, I know I would hate to be surprised right now, but I've been sitting here saying all year it's really just been the past few weeks, but the Oklahoma, they are just so mid. It's just a mid team that they've been escaping wins, right? You go to Cincinnati, now I understand, look, Wyoming, Texas is not, they've had their fair share of close games, right? But we actually, in most of these games, outside of Oklahoma, we've pulled away at some point, right? Outside of Houston too. But that's one thing Houston, Oklahoma fans can sit here and turn around and point that back at me. But we just beat BYU 35-6. So answer that. So they had a 4-point lead over Cincinnati for a good portion of the game. UCF, they barely escaped them. It's just, I don't know how you can't look at Dylan Gabriel and go, oh my God, that's not mid. How people are looking at that and going, that's a Heisman contender. Oh my goodness. He's on an undefeated team. I guess that's one thing that could qualify him for the Heisman. Was on an undefeated team. The run game. This is the one thing that actually did surprise me. Walker. How Oklahoma fans weren't using Walker, or the Oklahoma team wasn't using Walker. That's if I'm an Oklahoma fan, I'm actually seriously pissed off at the coaching staff. I'm why have we not been using that guy more? Maybe it's due to injury. I don't follow Oklahoma that closely, but that dude really did surprise me. So that's one good thing that they had.
There's a reason they keep blaming Jeff Lebby, their offensive coordinator. And of course, Bo, our Sooner resident who takes up time here in the chat, and we love it. I do love having the back and forth in the chat. I think it's a lot of fun for everyone. Says, but we OU still control our own destiny. And actually, that's true, but that's true of a lot of teams in the Big 12 right now. There are 5 teams, 4-1 in conference right now. OU, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Texas, and Kansas State. Now, obviously, there's a lot of pairing going on, like Texas and Kansas State play this week. OU and Oklahoma State play this week, and I'm just going to write off Iowa State. But I'm saying there's 5 teams that do control their own destiny to get into the Big 12 championship game right now. So yeah, you do, Bo. You control your own destiny, but you're not alone there. So it's like,
well, and also here's the deal: this weekend's match, right? This is not like so Texas is playing Kansas State, who's a really good football team. This is not a parallel where you can say, oh, well, Oklahoma's doing the same thing. We're playing a really good. No, y'all are playing a really good football team who really wants to win. Like this is, I was thinking about this. This is actually like, it's almost crazy how parallel it is to the Texas versus Texas A&M. The maroon red colored team is headed off to the SEC. The orange team, now it's a little bit different because they're going to the Boom Pickens. But you got an orange team versus a red team. One team, the red team's going to the SEC. Orange team gets their chance to say, you know what, we're taking our last dub and we're keeping it in the Big 12. Mike Gundy would love nothing more than for how this season has started, for them to end up 7-1 or 8-1 with a win over Oklahoma, like as the parting win. You want to talk about something that he would, at that point, you're tenured. You're never getting fired ever.
Well, he's already tenured.
Well, I know,
Mike Gundy
it got close this year.
Mike Gundy can do whatever he wants in Stillwater. He owns that town. I'm just telling you. They've never done anything really until he got around. They had 1 or 2 good years, but trust me, Mike Gundy is as safe can be. And it's going to be an interesting Bedlam game this week. I'm actually looking forward to that game. But
yeah, right now we've got Oklahoma favored by 5.5 on the road. Texas favored by 4.5 at home against Kansas State. So we're going to know a lot more about these teams in the Big 12 after this weekend. We haven't seen spreads that close very often throughout conference play, at least not when it comes to Texas and Oklahoma. They've been favored by a lot of points. They haven't covered every single time, but yeah, we're gonna learn a lot more. Oklahoma, they definitely have to probably out of the playoff picture completely now. I don't see, even if they run the table, they're probably not getting in. But yeah, it's interesting stuff because Oklahoma State's playing well right now, and Nash, you're right. They're definitely going to want to beat them. If it's even possible for them to want to beat them more than normal, it would be this year. So I guess we'll see.
Well, they're a good team this year too.
Yeah,
they're a strange team. Like they lost.
Well, the Big 12 strange.
they lost big to Southern Alabama. I mean, it wasn't even close. They got drubbed by Southern Alabama, and yet they've come on. They beat Kansas State. They created like 3 different turnovers. K-State probably should have won that game, but they turned the ball over way too much. They found themselves in a hole, and they weren't able to dig out of it. I don't know. Oklahoma State has been. At the end of the day, I still don't think they're any good, but they've been playing well. You got to give them credit. I mean, so we'll see. And OU clearly has not been playing well since the Red River shootout. So I don't know. It'll be a good one. It's going to be an interesting battle in the Big 12 all the way down to the end. I think obviously somebody like, say Brett Yormark would probably love to see a K-State Oklahoma State matchup, but in the Big 12 championship game. But we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. This week will go a long way to determining which 2 teams make it to Arlington.
Yep.
This week is also, by the way, the first week we're going to get a look at the college football playoff brackets, the rankings. They come out tomorrow, Tuesday night. That's
are you going to watch, Travis? Like,
I'm proud of you, Travis.
On the TV, or are you just going to watch the 8 people all year?
At the very least.
I'm probably not going to watch. I mean, that show's long and boring, and all you really need to see is the actual rankings when they come out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. If Texas wins the Big 12 championship game, I'll watch that when the rankings come out after that. But I'm not. I'm not
actually going to watch the broadcast either. I was more just making a joke about how you're boycotting all playoffs.
The moratorium. The moratorium is on talking about Texas going to the college football playoffs. That's the moratorium. I'm not talking about Texas and the college football playoffs until they show they can play all 4 quarters, and they still haven't done that. They didn't do that against BYU last week either. They have not put together 4 quarters of football. So, no, I'm not talking about them with the playoffs. But I will talk about the playoffs writ large. And when those rankings do come out, Georgia's got to be the number one team in the country. They just went into Jacksonville and destroyed Florida, which, I'm not huge on Florida, but they continue to – Georgia's playing good football. I mean, I know they got up to a sluggish start to this season, but they're playing good football now, and they're winning big. They're still the number one team in the country. They're still loaded with a ton of talent, and they're probably not going to face a real – well, they've got Missouri coming up. That'll be a good game. But if Georgia plays like they did against Kentucky, which to me, Missouri and Kentucky are kind of on par, and of course, Georgia destroyed Kentucky. So I don't know. I don't see who else would you put above Georgia if you were ranking the college football playoffs yourself.
I think Michigan's better than Georgia this year.
But Michigan's
really
got their own little problems going on right now.
Yeah, but that shouldn't affect
I saw that they were talking about immediate postseason ban.
I think Michigan has the line play to go up against a team like Georgia. They do not have the skill position talent to match up against a team like Georgia. And they're not going to, by the way, just be able to run the ball down their throats like they have every other crappy Big Ten team that they've played so far. And their schedule is as bad or worse than what Georgia has done. So
I just think Michigan's been the more consistent team. And I will say, I've been saying this for a while now. Oregon should have won that Washington game. I think Oregon's the second best team in the country. They obviously shouldn't be ranked number 2 because they have the loss, but I think Oregon is the second best team in the country right now.
Spoiler alert, they're going to be moving up the Gailey poll rankings this week.
The Pac-12, we're about to find out. Oregon State, they took their second loss. Now they've been a lot more impressive. I'm not trying to bring that up for the reasons I'm not going to lie. A few weeks ago, I would have had different reasons to bring this up. But Oregon State, they've been looking really good. It was an upsetting loss to Arizona. But
Arizona's been playing tough football.
No, they have. But at the end of the day, if you're Oregon State, Oregon State, it was actually becoming real that, okay, they have a chance to actually make it to the playoffs because you look at their schedule, right? It was not a lot. They do have Washington and Oregon coming up, right? But it's Colorado and Stanford. If they were able to somehow survive that, man, that's just like that. That's a team that's getting in, and it was as they kept winning games, it was getting more real and real as it goes on. But USC, they got Washington and Oregon up these next 2 weeks, so that'll be very interesting to see if USC continues on their downtrend that they've had over the last few weeks.
They're pretenders.
I know they're pretenders, but I wonder, can their offense do enough to, maybe throw a wrench in some of these teams' plans, like maybe a Washington, because Washington has not been playing some good football recently. They've been.
I think Washington's going to lose. Washington still has Utah and Oregon State. They're going to lose one. We're going to get one loss. Washington.
Well, Washington's also has USC Oregon. Too. USC, Utah, Oregon State.
Yeah.
So
they're going to destroy USC. I'm telling you right now.
But
yeah, they're not. I don't think they're going to lose to USC. But we're going to have one loss Washington versus one loss Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. And I'm telling you right now, Oregon's going to beat them by.
Oregon's
defense
is the most impressive to me.
The thing to watch is honestly, like in the Big Ten, how does Michigan handle all the distractions that's been going on? I mean, you got the NCAA coming in and investigating or they're interviewing coaches. There's probably going to have to be a change in how you're calling signs and like how the plays are called, because obviously that's been under scrutiny in the past few weeks. It's going to be a very interesting team to watch over the next few weeks. And then they do have some time to work those kinks out, but they got Ohio State coming up, and that's a team that you want to be figured out and ready for Ohio State. This Ohio State team with Marvin Harrison.
It's 2023. Why college football doesn't have radio helmets is beyond me. That came into the NFL like in the early 90s.
Tradition, Travis. What are you talking about? We can't. We need no.
Absolutely
we need
ridiculous.
Antique rules. We need antique rules that make no sense for anything except for life in the 1990s. We need bowl
the fact
games.
that they're
all
having
that
to
stuff.
have all these different signboards and GAs throwing up hands, it's just freaking ridiculous. They can afford helmet radios in the helmets. They can afford them. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's time to get rid of the stupidity.
Well, and I found out from
just,
Sark that they even have now, like, I didn't realize this, that the dudes with the colored shirts on,
yeah,
you got a purple shirt dude, a yellow shirt dude, and a blue shirt dude, and they're all doing signs, and you got to know which color shirt's the one that is the one that's relaying the signs. It's like, Aaron, you'll know that this is baseball on crack. I mean, look, people will be surprised that this, like, what pitchers and catchers are doing is like complex mathematics up there. They're like the pump systems, you got multiplication, there's division that can get worked in there. Teams will do a lot to try and keep signs from being stolen. I never knew it went that deep in football with all the different colored jerseys. Like I always saw like Tom Herman's teams with the different color, Texas shirts on and all that stuff. I just always assumed like that's Tom Herman wanted that guy wearing that shirt so he knows what personnel's, for what certain group or whatever. Like he can immediately turn around and yell, "I want you," blue shirt, come here, right? But
yeah, no, it's all about
it's
signs.
crazy.
And by the way, it's not just that one of them is the accurate sign and the other. They're also doing different signals to, like, the offensive line, the quarterback, and the receiver groups. Like there's multiple signals being signaled in at any given point. It is a lot. It makes sense why someone would want to steal these signs. And sign stealing is not illegal in college football. What is illegal is scouting in person and recording that. That's illegal. And by the way, I don't know why it's illegal to scout in person. I think that's a cost-saving thing that they implemented. And that was a new rule in the 90s. They stopped the in-person scouting. Ridiculous.
It's also illegal to put an earpiece in the helmet too.
I got to say, by the way, we're talking all this football, and Danny Wada saying the best stretch coming up. College football is made in November, and here we are heading into November. That's when the games really matter. I mean, you have to do all the work ahead of time. Texas being 7-1 coming into November, they've done what they needed to do to put themselves in position now. Now's when you make your bones. Now's when you really stamp a claim and on whether your season is going to be good, great, or not. The toughest games get played in November. There's the most on the line in November. This is what it's all about. We are hitting the sweet spot of college football. And the sad thing is, once Thanksgiving weekend goes by, it's like this huge letdown after that, because then you get one or two, like Army, Navy will be the week after
Michigan,
that.
Ohio State.
The championship games are after that. But for the most part, it really tails off. And then you get a bunch of crappy bowl games before, which I'm going to watch because I love college football. So I watched the crappy bowl games. You know what I mean? Like I'll tune in for the RL Carriers Bowl.
Well, hey, Travis, we can't. Don't you know we cannot expand the college football playoff because we need the RL Carriers Bowl. Okay. We need the burnt cheeseburger bowl.
This is the last year for all of that.
Yeah, and you know what? I cannot wait for next year because it's just like November becomes even more cracked out. Like when you're talking about, it's now like it's not just okay. All these teams like Oklahoma's still in it, and all like it's like a Kansas State is still in it. Well, I mean they're obviously still in it now, but like an Oregon State, for example, 2-loss team, they'd still be in it. It's just now it's exponential. You have now there's like maybe 20 teams that might be able to make that final cut. And it's just watching 20 different teams and seeing the craziness that happens. That'll be really fun to watch. And then also, like I saw a projection, like if they were to do the if we had the 12-team college football playoff this year, I think right now we'd be matched up to play Penn State at DKR, and that would just like
a home game. Yeah, that'd be cool.
You want to talk about electric atmospheres?
Yeah.
Like you're talking about college football in a time that it's never existed, right?
Yeah.
Like because you have the first week of December, you got all the conference championships. Then there's like a couple weeks period, like you said, where it's just absolute doo-doo bowl games, and then you actually start to get to the Texas bowls and all that stuff at the end of December. That you're like, okay, I'm talking myself into this. All right, I'm really I'm really convincing myself. So
I
I
wait
can't wait
for
to see
the
all that
expanded
stuff.
playoffs. It's just going to make it even better. It's time we, I never understood the people arguing that it should stay at 4. So I'm excited about that, but I'm also excited about the upcoming slate of games throughout the rest of this. It's a great time to be a college football fan. That's all I'm saying. Listen, guys, we've asked you a couple times. We're going to ask you one more time. Hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of great Texas Longhorn football talk coming up, starting next with Anwar's Old Fashioned Sports Show, then House Divided with Jeff Ketchum and Chad Hastings. Then we've got Football with Friends with Alex Dunlap and the OB Outsiders tonight. I'm sure they're going to have a great guest. They always find some great guests. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of great talk coming up. You don't want to miss it. So subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out when the shows start. And listen, we really do thank you for joining today. We appreciate every one of you who come on and watch. And even if you're not in the chat, that's okay. There's a lot of fun going on in the Specs chat line. But even if you're just watching, or if you're watching this delayed and you obviously can't take part in that, we appreciate that too. We thank you for giving us your time. We truly do appreciate it. So thank you so much. Listen, for Nash from Texas, who loves talking them horns, and for Aaron from Orange Bloods, I am Travis Gailey. We hope you have a fantastic Monday. Coming up tomorrow, we got SEC Tuesday, and we're going to be reacting to Sark's Monday presser. So we got more Texas football and talking our future conference home and what's going on in the SEC. Hope you guys have a great Monday.